In Numbers chapter 20, God instructs Moses to speak to a rock, and Moses instead strikes a rock. And that's the entire reason that Moses is prevented from entering into the promised land. Now, the interesting thing is, if you backtrack to the beginning of the book of Exodus, when God originally called Moses, Moses' big problem and reason that he said he couldn't lead the children of Israel was that he couldn't speak. And God said, you know what? I'll be with you and I'll help you to speak. But Moses refuses God's help and says, just send somebody else instead. And so God sends Aaron to help him speak. The problem is Moses never learns to speak for himself. And so when the time comes to speak to the rock, he's unable to. He strikes the rock and he's prevented from entering into the promised land. I'm Pastor Branson Villardo. I pray this video will be a blessing to you. Today I want to talk about why Moses couldn't enter the promised land and why it matters to you today. If you haven't already, make sure you like this video and share it to help us get the word out, and subscribe to our channel for more great content just like this. I want to start in Numbers chapter 20, and here's what it says after the children of Israel are complaining that they don't have water to drink in the wilderness. In Numbers chapter 20 and verse 7, it says this: The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, you and Aaron, your brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes. And it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give to the congregation and their beasts drink. Now you notice he said, speak thee. But it says Moses took the rod from before the Lord, and as he commanded him. So he did what God had commanded him in taking the rod. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, Hear now, you rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice. And the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, Because you believed me not to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore you shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. And then the Lord speaks to Moses and says that because he struck the rock, he won't let him into the land. That's what you saw in verse 12. So anyway, the point of this story is super interesting, because on the one hand, it seems like, why is it such a big deal? He struck the rock. He was supposed to speak to it. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But if you go back, this is actually core to the story of Moses. Because when God had originally called Moses, everybody knows Moses had a stutter. And one of the reasons that Moses said that he couldn't lead the children of Israel out of Egypt was he said, God, I'm not a good politician. I can't give good speeches. I can't talk right. And what God responded to him was, God said, don't worry, Moses, I'll be with you and I'll help your mouth to speak. But ultimately, the Bible tells us that Moses refused the help of the Lord and instead said, just send somebody else. And so God concedes, and God says, all right, I'll send Aaron with you. When God sends Aaron with Moses to go speak to Pharaoh, Moses ultimately never has his mouth healed, and he never learns to speak right. And so what happens is, many years later down the road, when God's instructed for Moses to speak to the rock, Moses doesn't speak to the rock because he never learned to talk right. So that past insecurity that was never dealt with caught up to him, and as a result, he's never able to enter into the promised land. Now that is the importance for you today of learning to overcome the insecurities or the things that may be holding you back in Christ. You may not realize how big of a deal it is right now, or how big of a deal it is in the moment. You may feel like in the moment, well, why can't God just use somebody else to accomplish this task or another? But ultimately, it could be very important to the grand plan and the grand scheme that God has laid out for your life. When God offers to do something for you, when God offers to help you in an area, never refuse his assistance. Never ask him to send somebody else or to use somebody else. He's using you for a purpose. He has a plan and a purpose in mind for you. And he has something that he wants you to fulfill and something that He wants you to accomplish. I pray this video would be an encouragement to you to take steps to overcome and to grow in the areas that God's commanded you. If you haven't already, make sure you like this video and share it to help us get the word out, and subscribe to our channel for more great content just like this. I'm Pastor Branson Velardo. I pray that this video has been a blessing to you. God bless you. We love you.